Testing 1 2 3. This is about soul searching and the Blasian girl that kind of mixed into the background but really stood out, and she should have been at the foreground. Her story. My daughter and I, Ifa, she's the one that actually pointed it out in the movie that, hey, there's a black Asian girl, and I was like, oh, that's Blasian, pretty much. That's Blasian. And I was like, wow, this movie, like Soul Searching, if you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix. Really good. It came out in 2015. It's about all the Korean children, first generation or second generation immigrants from across the world, Germany, parts of the U.S., Mexico,
America.
where else? Parts of the U.S., everywhere. And the government, the Korean government, this was in the 80s, actually had a summer camp where those children will go back to Korea, learn the different cultural norms and mores, and the language, writing system. It was really, 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 really good. But I have one critique.
I want to know more about the Blasian girl. Like, I liked everybody's story, but, like, everybody's story was good, but I still want to hear more from the Blasian girl. Maybe the twins, too.
I wanted to know more about the Blasian. She was more like a vixen, sort of, kind of. They touched on her hair by just making it a bit more voluminous. Like, it was bigger than everybody else's. If I said that word right, doesn't matter, but more volume. It wasn't as flat. But they needed to talk about that because...
it's hard for... Well...
What?
It might be hard for them. I don't know because I'm not Blasian, but...
But apparently, this was based on a true story. It was actually true accounts of one of those summers where the government sponsored all these children of the immigrants across the world to come. And it was really interesting because you had this Korean guy who was from Mexico, Sergio.
He was funny.
He was really funny. Then the German, and they all had the accents down. It was really intriguing. But I really, really wanted to hear more about the Blasian. And Blasian, if you don't know, Ifa, is a term.
I already know what Blasian is.
What's Blasian?
It's a mix of Black and Asian.
Black and Asian. But that wasn't like a given. It didn't fall out the sky when people were born, that term. That came from Tiger Woods. Yeah, he
was on Fresh Off the Boat. They were talking about him.
Yeah, he's the one that started that term because apparently some people felt that he didn't want to just say he's black. Like, just say you're black. Your dad is black. He wants to say he's Blasian.
If I was Blasian, I would call myself Blasian because...
True. And there's a lot of Blasians.
Proud of both sides.
Yes, that's very much so true. I agree. Like, however, in America, there's this whole topic going back to enslavement era that one drop of black blood made you black. So, or African descendant. So if you can look like a Caucasian, but let's say your great-great-great-great-grandfather was from Africa, you're black. That was the rule here. And it's very precarious or confusing because in Brazil, it was the opposite.
Because in, well, I looked it up on Google Blasian. Oh my goodness, my cat just galloped. So anyways, I was looking up on Google a Blasian because I just search up random things. And
was this after the movie?
Yes. I've done it before, though.
Okay.
And, like, most of them they were darker. They didn't really take much of their Asian side. Like, you can see their Asian side, but their skin color was more on, like, the darker side.
The melanin,
Yeah. So I think that's why people usually call them black.
Hey, my cat is going nuts. Stop. Okay. Yeah, but like you said, they're also Asian. And that's a whole nother set of cultural...
Yeah, because their facial features look Asian, but some of them, it's just their skin
They're
color.
dark. But there's a whole bunch of... If you hear any pattering, that's our cat, Debbie. She's just running. It's dark. Her eyes are dilated. Her pupils are dilated. And she's just running. But What was I saying, Debbie, before you started around?
About their facial or something.
There's actually highly melanated or dark-skinned Asians and Asian already. So it's not like Asians are not used to dark-skinned Asians. Including Indians right now. We're including Indians.
Yeah, because Indians are Asian.
Yeah, but there's also dark skin, or if you want to say Oriental, and I'm putting that in quotes because I'm not sure if it's offensive or not, but Orientals are, with more slanted eyes. So, long pause.
I could hear crickets.
There's, crickets. You could put the crickets there. But again, so back to the Blasian story in Soul Searching. And Seoul is Seoul, as in Seoul, Korea. Soul Searching. So it was a clever topic. Really good movie. Heart-touching. It talked about adoption. Koreans being adopted by Caucasians.
When they were talking about their mother, that really touched me. Because remember the Twinsters movie? Like, that part really reminded me of the movie on Netflix. It's called Twinsters, and it's about twin sisters. They were separated at birth.
Oh,
Korean sisters.
Yeah.
They were Korean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so.
They looked a little bit like her to me.
And that's a true story, too. She was a YouTuber, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was an actress.
Yeah. And she was separated, and come to find out, she was a twin. So, and they were both adopted. One came to the U.S. and one
went to
Paris. Yeah, she was in France. I believe it was France. Someplace in Europe. But they were separated. So that's a real historical significance to a lot of Asian countries. There's this adoption and stuff. And soon, apparently, to some African nations as well. But one of the major things I wish this movie would have, because it went into different people's stories, and it's like each character asked them, so how'd you end up in Mexico? Or how'd your people end up in Germany? And how are you all doing? How did you all end up in France or New Jersey or California? I wanted them to go to the Blasian girl and be like, what's your story? So historically, the story with Blasians...
everybody's story. Well, except there was a lot of Americans. So the Americans one was fine. The German one was fine. I just wanted to hear more about the Blasian girl.
Yeah, because that was different. They could have added her. I mean, she had lines, but you didn't hear her background story. That's what I wanted to hear, is her background story. So basically, historically, during the wars and different things, when black U.S. soldiers, and I know some people don't like the word black because it's a color of crayon, but we're going to put black in quotes as a general term we could use for highly melanated people. So we could say chocolate folks, melanated folks, African descendant, but today we're just going to use the generic term black in quotes. So when black soldiers from the United States went to Korea, they basically and Vietnam as well. A lot of it happened in Vietnam and the Philippines. Anywhere black soldiers went around the world, they're male, and they mated and, courted and had children with Asian women. And either those women came back with them here. There's a lot of different biographies on autobiographies. They came here back with them to the U.S., or they had the babies there. And maybe they probably gave them for adoption. I'm not sure. I'm assuming. Or they came here. So if you meet a lot of Blasians, and I'm not sure what Tiger Woods' story is as his father, if that was the same thing with...
I think his father's black.
Yes. But did they meet while he was in the army or something? I'm not sure. You could let us know in the comments below. But it's just interesting. I want to know more about Blasians and that story. I know Kimora Lee Simmons is Blasian. Janae Aiko. Is Karuchi Tran? I'm not sure. But there's a lot. And Kimora Lee Simmons' children are Blasian. In quotes.
If you look up on BuzzFeed, there'll be okay, my cat's scaring me. There'll be
what in the world? Okay, go ahead.
So if you look up on BuzzFeed, it'll be about the mixed Asians, different types of Asians, and so there's this woman, and she is straight up in the mix of Nigerian and Indian. Like, it is amazing. She is the...
But you know what? There's a
amazing.
lot of Indians and Pakistanis in Nigeria, so I'm sure that mix is becoming more and more common.
I know, but she's like, sometimes you think she's Indian, sometimes you think she's Nigerian. Like, you can tell.
You know where there's a
It's
lot of
amazing.
Blasians?
Where?
Because that's Blasian too. That's
Oh yeah, she is
Nindian.
Blasian.
She's Nindian, Nigerian Indian.
Indian is.
There's a lot of Blasians in Jamaica.
Really?
Yeah, the Chinese. There's a lot of Blasians in Jamaica. I went to high school with a Blasian. I mean, I'm saying Blasian in quotes, right? But she was Black Chinese from Jamaica. There's a lot of them.
I've never met one before.
There's a lot in Jamaica. You look at them, you think they about to, and then they start speaking in patois. You're like, what? It's always amazing. It's always amazing. But definitely Jamaica, and I'm sure Guyana and probably Trinidad. And it's historical. A lot of Chinese were taken to those places too. From the West Indies, the Caribbean, a lot of Asians were taken as a buffer class. In Indians too, that's how you have curry and all them thing and roti in the Caribbean. But a lot of again, Asians were taken to the Caribbean to be a buffer class between the African and Caucasian or European. They put the Asian right in the middle to buff it, and those were the people that had the stores and the merchants and things like that. They also did a lot of labor work.
Well, I just feel a little bit annoyed. Like, you know how in the world you know how in America where we have Chinese restaurants or Asian restaurants, like, they make it seem so cheap, and like they make it some of the stuff like junk food. I'm not gonna say, but like
what? Egg rolls?
No, like, they make it seem like it's not a culture. They just make it seem like, hey, let's get a bag of Doritos. Like,
what would be the Doritos in question?
Like,
patty? I don't understand.
No, I'm saying, like, it just seems like people treat, like, Asian restaurants, like, you know, let's say if you go down the street and you have that Asian restaurant that you go to, they make it seem like a junk food restaurant. Like, I don't know how to say this.
Try to explain it.
I don't know.
Try.
No.
Because I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
They make it.
Is it that they separate it from the culture?
Yes.
So you don't know anything. You just know you want fried rice with whatever you get.
No, I'm saying like.
Because a lot of those dishes they don't have in China.
I know. And then when people go to China, it's American Chinese food. That's what
exactly.
people say.
And that's what it says, American Chinese. Because a lot of Chinese came here and they were like, okay.
I thought when people say American Chinese, I thought they meant like it has American Chinese food.
No, it means Chinese Americans, I think.
Yeah.
Just like how when you see Caribbean restaurant, it says Caribbean American restaurant.
Really?
Some of them. You have to see authentic. When you see like an authentic Thai restaurant, because we're using Asian in general, because India is included, Thailand is included, Vietnam is included, Japan is Laos is included, Malaysia, Pakistan, all these places. In some instances, Russia is included in that, but we're not. Yes, it's right above China.
But I thought Russia was a part of.
It's on continental Europe. It's on continental Asia, right?
So that means technically Europe is Asian too.
Exactly. It's Eurasia. They try to put it together as Eurasia. It's one big landmass. It's just one big landmass. But anyway, Blasians, please comment below. It's really, really interesting. There's a lot going on. Check out the movie. He was funny. Check out the movie Soul Searching on Netflix. It was really good. We have our movie night, and we just, you know, we're not movie buffs, but we like imagery. We're image people, visual artists, and writers as well. My daughter's a budding writer, and we just love, you know, critiquing movies and, you know, admiring it, breaking it down, seeing how they make it, and, you know, the imagery, the use of black and white and light, and to affect good and bad and things like that. So you're gonna be seeing more of our critiques. All right, Soul Searching on Netflix.
Comment and subscribe down below.
This cat's going nuts. Comment and subscribe down below. See, she a professional. She's like, comment and subscribe down below. I like that. And don't be leaving no bad comments because it's going to be comment disabled. Don't do that. Holla. Testing 1, 2, 3. This is about soul searching and the Blasian girl that kind of mixed into the background but really stood out, and she should have been at the foreground. Her story. My daughter and I, Aoife, she's the one that actually pointed it out in the movie that, hey, there's a black Asian girl, and I was like, oh, that's Blasian, pretty much. That's Blasian. And I was like, wow, this movie, like Soul Searching, if you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix. Really good. It came out in 2015. It's about all the Korean children, first generation or second generation immigrants from across the world, Germany, parts of the U.S., Mexico,
America.
where else? Parts of the U.S., everywhere. And the government, the Korean government, this was in the 80s, actually had a summer camp where those children will go back to Korea, learn the different cultural norms and mores, and the language, writing system. It was really, 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 really good. But I have one critique.
I want to know more about the Blasian girl. Like, I liked everybody's story.